Welcome to The Cure. I'm your host, Errol Silverman. We have a great show for you today. With us is Dr. David Wilkes, who's the Dean Emeritus of University of Virginia Medical School. Dr. Wilkes has published over 140 medical papers, has 6 U.S. patents, is a well-known philanthropist, well-known serial entrepreneur, and if I went through all of Dr. Wilkes' accomplishments, it'd take us till Christmas. So without further ado, here is Dr. Wilkes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Earl. I'm glad to be here.
So Dr. Wilkes, tell us a little bit about your background and your history and what motivated you to get into medicine.
You know, that's, we're going back a number of years, but I had the opportunity, not the opportunity, but I ended up growing up in the first planned integrated community in the country. It was adjacent to Northeast Philadelphia in a little area called Trevose. At that time, my parents, who were living in Southwest Philadelphia, couldn't buy a home, you know, in the general area because of the housing was all segregated. But this planned community called Concord Park of 139 homes was designed to be an integrated community. So the endpoint was to have 55% of the families be Caucasian, and the remainder, the 45%, would be African American. So we moved there. I was an infant, but spent 13 years there. Very interesting time period. As I grew up, I noticed that my parents were very active in the civil rights movement. I remember them, even at a very young age, getting on the bus to go see what then became the famous "I Have a Dream" speech by Martin Luther King.
Wow.
And it was an environment where we thought that was normal there, because black kids play with white kids,
Right.
and there was no separation of anything. But watching my parents and living that environment, made it very clear to me that it was about, everybody's equal, and we could all get along, and we could do things. After the other part of my household was just the culture. It was about education, and my parents, they talked about it wasn't if you were going to go to college, it was where you were going to go to college and what you were going to study. And I got a lot of that, particularly from my father, who was the second African American to graduate from Villanova University.
Oh, wow.
And earn a degree in electrical engineering and a master's in statistics. At that time in the 50s, those things just didn't happen. But he went on to become what I would call a hidden figure, so to speak, and worked very much in the NASA space program at that time.
Oh, wow.
And in his job at RCA, he was the leader of the team that developed the camera that recorded the first moonwalk. And so if you recall, that was in August of
That's
1969. And remember the one small step for man and one giant for mankind? That film, that was done by his camera. And so that was the environment, and it was a very rich one. So my 2 sisters and I, that's what we had. Along the way, I became a car nut. My father and I used to tinker in the garage, repairing cars and lawn equipment, and that actually ended up being very instrumental for me because it afforded the opportunity to pay for a large part of my undergraduate in medical school, part of medical school education. I ended up working as an auto mechanic and also repairing heavy lawn equipment. And when I wasn't working in a shop for someone, I was moonlighting doing that work as well. And then after the first year of medical school for me, was where my wife and I met as classmates in med school.
How cute.
Yeah, well, it was, there's a story there, but I don't think we'll go into that right now. But I then needed additional money for school, and I was able to compete for a medical school scholarship that was funded by the United States Air Force.
Wow.
And so after medical school and my training in internal medicine, my residency training, I went on active duty and ended up running an intensive care unit for one of the Air Force teaching hospitals. And it was then after that I went back and did my pulmonary critical care training and a lot of my research training at University of Texas Southwestern. I should mention that I followed my father's footsteps in Villanova, and I'm also a Villanova alum. And then med school was at Temple University, in Philadelphia.
I've only gone to one school.
This
university, I'm blown away.
Right.
What do you consider some of your most meaningful accomplishments?
I guess there are a number of things. From a scientific standpoint, the area that I studied for 20 plus years with funding from the National Institutes of Health was understanding immune regulation in the lung, like how the lung regulates, how the immune system is regulated within the lung, with a very much having a focus on lung transplants. I got very fascinated with lung transplant biology because it turns out if you get a lung transplant, they have the worst 5-year survival of any of the other solid organ transplants.
Oh, wow.
And so I wanted to understand that better. And in doing so, we discovered that transplant rejection, the leading cause of death after lung transplant, was not about the immune recognition of foreign proteins, but it was a protein that was hidden from the immune system that was in the lung that became exposed after times of injury or even at the time of transplantation. And so we went from understanding the rejection response. It's not simply about detecting non-self, but it was also a self protein, otherwise known as autoimmunity. And my contribution to the field in medicine and science was that we birthed the field of autoimmunity in transplant rejection. That's one. The other, I think, for me, a major contribution is that providing access for those who are under-resourced to get into medicine and science. And so for years, from the early 90s all the way through my career, I've always had training grants that would support students or postdoctoral fellows or junior faculty, many folks who are underserved, underrepresented, that I could serve as a role model and it helped to open doors for individuals that could pursue the career that I had. And then perhaps the third thing is, out of my research findings, we discovered a drug and formed a company and actually got a drug through phase 1 clinical trials, only to learn that being an entrepreneur is really hard, and at one point you might run out of money. And that's what happened.
Well, thank you for all that information. I feel like I owe you a copay now.
Yeah, right.
I was only pre-med for a year, so all that went over my head.
Yeah, right.
But 20 years ago, I did play a doctor in a commercial.
Oh, okay.
And it was funny because my daughter, when she was 8, she said, "Dad, is that illegal to pretend you're a doctor?" And I said, "I don't know, but the statute of limitations is up."
Yeah, right.
If you could identify one thing that really propelled your career and your success, what would it be?
And it's what I preach, is having the appropriate mentor. Mentoring is critical for anyone's success, and without that individual or individuals, I don't think I'd be where I am, today. And many individuals I've met that were mentors, they've evolved over the years. And one whom you'll interview after myself, Dr. Jim Gavin, was also a very strong mentor for me. But it's the concept of mentoring, I think, is mission critical to achieve success. You can't do this on your own.
Yeah, you've given a lot back to the community and society, so thank you for that. Can you share some of the program's most notable success stories?
So for the last 14 years, nearly 14 years, I've been the National Director of the Harold Amos Medical Faculty Development Program, a program that's now in its 42nd year, and is funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And they, and I'll get to this in a minute, but in 2028, they will end funding, for that program. But along the way of the nearly 400 alums of the Amos program, we have 33 members of the National Academy of Medicine, which is pretty extraordinary.
Wow.
Many medical school deans. We've had an astronaut. We've had a couple of White House policy fellows. President and CEO of hospitals, including Memorial Sloan Kettering. They're all Amos, alums. 2 current NIH Institute directors are also Amos alums. So it's a very high impact program. And for us, it affords the opportunity to have folks to get a seat at the table so they can be part of the bigger enterprise in academic medicine. And the program is not limited to physicians. We support dentist scientists and nurse scientists. After, with the when the program is terminated, we've begun a new effort to keep the mission going called the Amos Institute for Medical Faculty Development, of which I am now the CEO. We're new, just birthed in April, of this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we are, but we will continue this mission of training the next generation of folks who are under-resourced in medicine, science, dentistry and nursing, and we will expand that for public health science investigators as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
When I was at the Harold Amos annual meeting a couple of years ago, I was in complete awe. It was literally a who's who in medicine. And being the hypochondriac that I am, I felt like I was in the safest place on the planet. So thank you for that.
Right.
Who is eligible to apply to the program, and what are the logical next steps?
A typical applicant is someone who's usually very junior faculty, maybe within a few years of getting their first faculty appointment. If you could be in a later stage of training, but that's usually uncommon, or usually you have a faculty appointment, typically at the assistant professor level. We're looking for individuals we're looking for lived experiences, and folks, wherever you came from, we want to know your story. And why you might benefit from the mentoring and the hands-on approach that we have. So we're looking for the next generation of leaders, not just that they're going to be brilliant scientists. We vet the science that they're going to do, but we also vet the individual, and we vet the individual's mentor at their academic institution. And so it's a fairly rigorous process, pretty competitive, but we're looking to invest in people who are going to be leaders.
What is the mission of the organization so critical at this point in time? I know there's a lot been going on in the news where billions of dollars are being pulled out of health research. So tell us a little bit about why it's so critical now in the United States.
Well, it's critical on a number of fronts. First off, the reductions in funding from federal agencies like the National Institutes of Health. It's that money that allows individuals to do the great discoveries, the researchers, individuals like myself and others, who can then develop new therapies in order to help patients. And it's not limited to just basic science research. It's also funding those studies that look at disparities in healthcare delivery, or in disparities in access to healthcare, or different outcomes for different treatments. And we all are a little bit different, and if you don't have a wide variety of folks involved in these studies, or a wide variety of individuals studying these particular problems and looking at things from different aspects, then we don't make advancements anymore. And so it's, with all the cuts that are going on right now, programs like ours, we need those leaders who are going to go out and keep this operational. In the absence of that, the biomedical research enterprise is it's going to be under siege, and it won't be an immediate negative effect, but in the near term, there are drugs that won't be discovered. There are clinical trials that will not be completed. Patients can and will ultimately suffer, and so we need to be there in order to train those next generation of folks who are going to be the difference makers, in medicine and science.
Well, mortality rates, I'm assuming, are going to go up. Life expectancy is going to go down, and especially in those marginalized communities. If you go to the most impoverished part of a city, comparing it to the most affluent suburb, about 20 minutes to 30 minutes outside, there's usually a 25-year gap in life expectancy, and people are unaware of that. So you guys are really coming in,
yes.
and God bless what you guys are doing. It's
right.
Amazing work. Well, I wanted to thank you, Dr. Wilkes, for coming on. Your incredible story, you've really helped society. Mm-hmm. You've helped humanity, the thousands of lives that you've saved. And I wanted to present this key to you to thank you for all the amazing work that you've been doing and are continuing to do with the Institute.
Thank you so much, Errol. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here and to share the story. And we're really looking for continued support as the Amos Institute is launched and now and becoming operational. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Great to see you. Thank you for watching our TV and streaming show and listening to our radio show and podcast, and we'll see you next time.